Stanford University.
Welcome, CS193P, Lecture 16. Today we're going to talk about a subject that's dear and near to my heart, which is audio and video playback as well. So we're going to get into some APIs there. We're not going to talk about web content. I guess I didn't update that slide. And but we're going to talk a little bit about settings and how to add application settings into the Settings app for your app. We'll just talk about the announcements. So the announcements for this week, first things first, Paparazzi 4 is due this Friday, 11:59 p.m., so make sure it's done. Any questions about Paparazzi 4 before we move on? So as you know, you're going to need to, hopefully everybody's read the assignment at least, you're going to need to integrate address book into this. And threading. Threading is going to be a big part of it as well. And we've asked you to build your own feature into there. So come up with something that's appropriate to you. It doesn't have to be very in-depth. It just needs to be something unique. Use something from WebKit and show us how you're using it, and point it out in your assignment. So, sorry, not WebKit, UIKit. Sorry, something from UIKit. You could, for example, a web view. I think that's where I got my head backwards. You could use video or audio if that makes sense to you.
What if you do something like extending the Flickr API and it's not specifically involving UIKit? Is that fine? If it's a cool feature for your app, then I would encourage you to go for it. Yeah. So,
OK. So next assignment actually is that your final project proposals. Hopefully you have all received feedback. If you haven't, please let us know. We think we've sent them all out. We've got about 2.5 weeks left before those are all due, so they need to be ready. And the last thing is this Friday, we're actually going to have the folks from Bump here to talk tomorrow in, what's the 260? 113. They'll be talking. So they're actually going to discuss a little bit about their business, but also an API, an SDK that they're coming out with. So if you'd like to use Bump in your final project, there's an opportunity there to find out what they're doing. And if you don't know, Bump is this app where if two people have phones and they're running this Bump app, when you bump the two together, it actually hits the cloud and exchanges address book information. So pretty cool. And I don't know the details of their SDK, but I presume it has something to do with that recognition of two devices. So come check it out. It should be cool. And before I dive in, the folks at A-Press, actually Dean Kaplan himself sent us a bunch of cool swag that I'm going to give out today. The first is this iPhone application sketchbook, which is essentially, a graph paper. It's a sketchbook. It's exactly what it advertises. But it also comes with a stencil, which is pretty cool. So if you want to draw some standard widgets, sliders, all that stuff, yeah, these two go together. So if you're, if you're lucky, if you can answer some questions during this, you'll get one of these, the pair. We've got about a half dozen to do. So, all right, let's get started. So again, today we're going to talk about audio APIs. Yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Sorry. I'm in Josh's role from last week. So the TAs, we need TAs for next term. If anybody's interested in being a TA for next term, please email us or go through the standard TA process, which may have already shut down for the term. OK, so it's too late for the standard TA application process through the school. But if you email us directly, we can get you through. Is it only for grad students? Question is it only for grad students? And no, it's not. I don't think so. Is it? Yeah, I don't think so. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
undergrads can be TAs, but I think grad students have preference if they need it for funding.
OK, so grad students have preference if they need it for funding. But yeah, I think anybody's open to apply. So, but you need to do well in this class for us to consider you. So hopefully you're all studying hard. OK, today we're going to get into audio APIs. We'll talk about how to play back audio, how to record audio, and how to use the media player APIs for doing iPod playback. We'll talk about video playback and the video editor. So there's a video editor class for doing, if you've ever recorded a video on the phone, you can go and trim those. There's actually an API for you to be able to get to that UI as well. And we'll talk a little bit about settings bundles, which is something that, pretty pretty fundamental to applications, and we've saved till right at the end to talk about it. But it may be useful for your final project, so I want to talk about it today. First things first, audio playback. Lots of different things you can do with audio, right? You all used apps on the phone. You've seen different uses. You could do sound effects for button clicks. You can do alert sounds when somebody does something that they weren't supposed to do. You can play music. You can stream audio. You can also play back audio through the iPod app. You can record audio as well, so you can get audio off the mic and then save that to disk. And I'll show you how to do all those things today. There are a few different subsystems for doing this. And I'll take you through all the different ones. The question is, with all these different subsystems, is which one do you want to use? And the answer to that is that it depends how complex the task is that you want to do. So if you're, if you're playing back short sounds, there's one set of APIs to use. If you need mixing of different streams of audio, that's another set of APIs to use. If you need, there's about 4 or 5 different APIs. If you need like spatial rendering, that's another set of APIs. But one thing to note about all this stuff is the device is a phone first. Before anything else, it's a phone first. Right? So the system manages the sound. You can play back if you want, but you're basically recommending to the system how you want to play the sound. If the system decides that it needs to take over the audio because your user's on a phone call, your sound is going to go dead. And I'm going to show you how to respond to those kinds of notifications to make sure that you do the right thing. Right? So let's get into that. Few different, under the hood, there's a very important technology at play here, which is called core audio. Now, core audio it's the same audio processing that happens on the desktop. So as many of you may know, if you go to any or most major recording studios use Mac to do their processing. A lot of the high-end, most of the high-end audio processing and applications for the Mac are actually based on core audio. And it's a very flexible, very powerful set of APIs. Now, on top of core audio, there are a few different levels of abstraction. For very easy-to-use sound processing, you have the system sound APIs. For a little more Objective-C friendly, there's a simple API called the AV Audio Player, and that's great for playing songs, for example. And now lower level, there are 3 that we're going to get into. One is the Audio Cue APIs, which come from the Audio Toolbox. And Audio Toolbox has some other tools in there for doing file parsing and stuff like that. There's audio units themselves. So audio units are these node-based processing engines, kind of the core of core audio. And then there's OpenAL, which is an open standard, just like OpenGL, which I'm sure you've all heard of. OpenGL used for rendering video in a standard way across devices. There's OpenAL for doing spatial rendering of audio. So now, to decide which of these you want to use, you have to know a little bit about each one and what the properties are of each. So we'll start with the System Sound API. Okay? If you want to play some short sounds, we're talking about user interface sounds here, less than 5 seconds each. The System Sound API is what you want to use. Now, it doesn't provide things like looping. Okay? So you can't have a loop as a background in a game and have that be a System Sound API. There's no volume control. The volume is completely dictated by the system volume that the user has set when they go up and down on the toggle switch for the volume. It plays back immediately. There's no scheduling of these sounds. So if you say, play this chirp sound, it's going to play right away. In fact, if you say play this chirp sound and it's in the middle of playing another chirp sound, it's going to interrupt the existing chirp sound, the one that's playing right now, and it's going to play it again. So it's very immediate sounds is what we're going for. And there are only a couple of formats that it supports. It doesn't do any highly compressed formats. We're talking about AIFF and WAV and CAF. So these are uncompressed PCM formats, and PCM just means essentially uncompressed, right? Okay, so how